everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my video for the ending of X-Men Dark Phoenix, as well as a little end tag scene that they have at the end. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Marvel videos. We're doing that Infinity Gauntlet giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave an X-Men comment or a Dark Phoenix comment on the video. Obviously, spoiler warning for the ending of Dark Phoenix if you haven't seen it yet, because I'll be literally talking about everything that happens at the end of the movie. But really quick, Jessica Chastain's character comes to planet Earth seeking the Phoenix Force. She's the leader of an alien shape-shifting group called the Dabari. Her real name is Vuk. If that sounds confusing, why would they go with that instead of doing something like the Skrulls? I actually do think in the original version of this movie, they were meant to be the Skrulls, but then when they found out that the Captain Marvel movie was using the Skrulls in a big twist, and the movie started to be too similar to the Captain Marvel movie, they probably had to find something to change it to. It's still a comic book Easter egg. The Dabari are a race of aliens in the solar system where the Phoenix Force drained the energy out of a star, destroying the entire system. I think it was something like 500,000 people that Jean Grey, as the Phoenix, winds up killing, so it becomes this big WTF moment in the comics. So the way they explain them in the movie is that a small group of them escaped, including Jessica Chastain's character. They're following the Phoenix Force across the universe, and it just happened to come to planet Earth and enter Jean Grey. So they're trying to take the Phoenix Force out of Jean Grey or control her so that they can use that power to make their race great again. Make the Dabari great again. Make all the jokes you want about that. Like I said, 100% I think that they were supposed to be the Skrulls in the original version of the movie, and she would have been the Skrull Empress. It would have been a much bigger WTF. It would have been a much bigger payoff for the fans. That is not the first thing that they had to change about the end of the movie. Like they said a couple weeks ago, they completely reshot the third act of the film because it was supposed to end in outer space, whereas it ended up ending on planet Earth, so to speak. There is some space stuff that goes on that I'll get to in a second. But basically, the end of the movie starts during that big train fight where you have the Brotherhood of Mutants with Magneto and Professor X with his X-Men all locked up. Then Vuk and her Dabari alien soldiers come for them. Up to that point in the movie, the Brotherhood of Mutants has been fighting Professor X. A couple of our core characters have switched sides, like Beast, who's now going against Professor X because of the death of Mystique. While this little civil war is going, they get locked up and they're taken on this train. But when Jessica Chastain's Vuk character and her other alien brethren come to take the Phoenix Force and kill them off, they have to band together. Magneto's team and Professor X's X-Men band together. They all come together to try and save Jean Grey. And by this point in the movie, the cosmic Phoenix Force has started to take over her personality more and more. She exhibits more and more powerful acts as the film goes on. So by the end of this movie, she's full on disintegrating people, Thanos snap style.
I don't feel so good.
You're all right.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
Jean Grey's floating in the air. You've seen it all in the trailers where she starts to pick the train up and spin it around. So you have all the X-Men, all the Brotherhood fighting the normal aliens while Jean Grey is picking the train up off the tracks, spinning it around, blowing up bits of it as they go. Vuk gets close to Jean Grey and tries to siphon the Force out of her again. She's tried to do it a couple times in the movie, forcibly take the Phoenix Force out of her body. But Jean Grey fully interfaces with the Phoenix and unlocks her full potential, going full cosmic force, and just incinerates Jessica Chastain's Vuk character. But seemingly they think that Jean Grey is dead, when really she just evolved into the full cosmic Phoenix Force. So technically she's not dead, but she flies off into outer space, but they only see the Phoenix Force flying off into outer space. They don't see Jean's body or anything like that. And they try to do an homage to 2001 Space Odyssey with the sequence of her becoming full cosmic Phoenix Force, where you're sort of passing through the wormhole, evolving as a human. So it's Jean Grey evolving to final boss form Phoenix. Obviously, there are not going to be any more X-Men movies within this universe, so you're just left to wonder what the Phoenix Force is going to be doing in the universe now. Professor X and Magneto pick up the pieces, they go back home, there's a little bit of a time jump. Professor X renames the school to the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters as a way to honor her memory, because they still think that she's dead. And ever since the beginning of the movie, Professor X has not been able to read Jean Grey's mind because she's become so powerful, so he can't read her cosmic force mind to know that she's still alive. So they're trying to memorialize her, but what happens is Professor X basically owns up to all the misdeeds that he had during the film. There was this running plot line with him being really selfish, being vain, liking all the attention that he was getting from the president of the United States, being on the covers of all these magazines.
You put us in danger, Charles. You put those kids in danger.
They're not kids anymore, Raven. And I care about their safety just as much as you do.
Are you sure about that? Because we're taking bigger and bigger risks. And for what? Please, tell me it's not your ego. Being on the cover of magazines, getting a medal from the president. You like it, don't you?
As opposed to being hunted and despised, well, actually I do. It's all just a means to an end, Raven.
What end is that?
Keeping us safe. You should understand better than anyone that we're only ever one bad day away from them starting to see us as the enemy again.
So what? We wear matching costumes and smile in pictures
That
to
is
make
a
everyone
small
feel
price
safe?
to pay for keeping the peace.
By risking our people to save theirs.
Yes, yes.
So he owns up to putting the X-Men in too much danger in the name of all this fame that they were achieving. So as penance, he hands over leadership of the school to the surviving X-Men, and they just continue running it like the normal X-Men school in the comics. But Professor X leaves with Magneto to go travel the world. So the weird thing about this is that they're still pretty young, but if you actually count when Magneto was born, remember he was in Auschwitz, he's over 60 years old. So Michael Fassbender is over 60 years old during this movie. It's almost exactly like the ending of The Dark Knight Returns. Remember the Dark Knight trilogy? At the end of that, Christian Bale's Batman supposedly just makes it seem like he's dead and then leaves to go travel the world with Catwoman and just go on a permanent vacation. He's already given and sacrificed so much, it's time for him to enjoy himself a little bit.
I would look across the tables and I'd see you there with a wife, maybe a couple of kids. You wouldn't say anything to me, nor me to you. But we both know that you'd made it, that you were happy.
But I don't exactly think that's what's going on with Professor X and Magneto, but they sit down at a cafe to play some chess, so Professor X is waiting, Magneto walks up and sits down, and they start playing. Magneto makes the first chess move, and it's meant to be a big Easter egg reference to the scene of Professor X, Patrick Stewart's Professor X, playing chess with Ian McKellen's Magneto at the end of the first X-Men movie in that plastic cell, and then Magneto during that scene says, "I made the first move." So Magneto making the first move during the end of Dark Phoenix is just a reference to that.
The war is still coming, Charles, and I intend to fight it. By any means necessary. And I will always be there. Old friend.
But also while that's happening, the camera sort of pans out and you see the sky, you see this giant phoenix shape forming in orbit. So it's just a way to reference that the Phoenix Force is still out there, Jean Grey is still alive, in cosmic form albeit. So who knows, you could write as much fanfiction as you want about what happens after this.
I am the entity known to you as Phoenix. To save all that exists, I became one with Jean Grey. We preserved the crystal, but I discovered an element humans call emotion. I lost my way. Now that the fire within Jean Grey has been extinguished, I am, as I was, guardian of creation.
But then just like Avengers Endgame, they do the same sort of post-credit scene type of thing where at the very end, they play a music cue that sounds exactly like the X-Men the Animated Series theme. If you don't remember that, I played an orchestral version of it at the beginning of this video, and I play it at the end of a lot of my other Marvel videos too. An interesting callback to that animated series, I still think that the animated version of the X-Men Dark Phoenix saga is still the best one. But for those of you asking what's going to happen with the X-Men next, Kevin Feige did say that there would be a bit of a cooling off period, even though he can use them as soon as he wants. They just released this movie. I think it's going to be a couple years before we see him actually use any of the really big mainstream X-Men characters. It's more likely that the Fantastic Four would get rebooted first because it's been even longer since we've seen that last movie. There have been a lot of rumors about a possible Marvel Phase 4 Fantastic Four movie. I will do a video about that sometime later this weekend or next week. Once you have a chance to see the movie, just let me know in the comments what you think of it and what you want Marvel and Kevin Feige to do with the X-Men characters once he does start putting them back in the MCU. While you wait for everything, click here for that brand new Spider-Man Far From Home trailer and to listen to Tom Holland talk about a bunch of Avengers Endgame deleted scenes. And click here for that brand new Rick and Morty Season 4 trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. We'll see you guys tonight.